Hi, my name's Alex. I looked at what HAL Laboratory released. Shit, I closed the page. Hold on. I have a list on my phone though.
Oh,
Why did I
okay,
close
good.
the page? Am I a fucking idiot or what?
You had one job.
I had one job. So what I did was obviously can't talk about a video game company like HAL without talking about video games. You know what they produce. And it's common knowledge that HAL produced Kirby, so I wanted to make it a point not to bring up any Kirby games during this segment because you all already probably know that they made Kirby games. So I went through each Nintendo console and I listed a few games that I wanted to talk about, and then there's some other notes at the end. So on the NES, the games that I thought were pretty notable that aren't Kirby the first one. The biggest one I think to me is Balloon Fight, which is a big part of Nintendo's history. They reference that game literally whenever they can. It's a huge part of their history. Also, Mock Rider and Adventures of Lolo 1 through 3, I think, are pretty cool C tier Nintendo games. Spencer already alluded to it. They did port of Joust. That was a thing. They did a port of Defender 2, which is another big 80s arcade game, and Millipede, which is also a big 80s arcade game. So um, some pretty notable games on NES. Game Boy, we have Revenge of the Gator, which is a pinball game that I talked about before. Tracks, which is a shooter. I didn't even know about that game. They made Pokemon Pinball on Game Boy Color, which is we'll start to see more Pokemon as we go along. Shanghai, a mahjong solitaire game, and Ghostbusters 2. Because yeah, well, I guess like I mean, that's kind of strange to hear Hal doing a licensed game like Ghostbusters 2 of all things, but it's there. SNES, the biggest one obviously is going to be Earthbound. That's a game where you're bound to the Earth or
Do you think
something.
that's their biggest?
That's outside of Kirby. That's probably the one that
Oh,
is like the
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
the most well known is
You're
Earthbound.
right. I didn't even think of that.
Also Sim City is also a big one on SNES, and that's something that they were
Whoa,
involved with. Yeah,
they
that's
did
a pretty
Sim City. Holy
yeah,
shit!
that's a pretty popular game. A couple other ones, Hyperzone, which I've already forgotten what it was. It's a shooter. Okay. Arcana, which is or Arcana. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. It's an RPG. And Vegas Stakes. If you want to go to Vegas, there you go. You can gamble. The N64 is where you start to see them really
Well, how
focus in.
about how about
What?
there's a Metal Slater Glory and released in 2000
You've already talked about this one.
on the Super Nintendo.
The Super Nintendo.
What?
Oh, that's the one. Oh no, the one you're talking about was on.
It was on Famicom.
What the fuck?
They
2001.
released it. They released a
That's
2000
the
Metal
same
Slater.
game though. It goes to the same article.
That is
No,
bizarre.
director's cut. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like some special.
That is
I
weird.
didn't even know they were stopping. They were already like ending the N64 at that time.
Yeah, yeah. That was the end of the N64's lifetime. That's so weird.
The original was released in '91 on the Famicom.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, okay. N64 is where we start to see them kind of focus in a little bit. There's really a lot of Pokemon games that they were involved with. They worked on the Pokemon Stadium titles, which are some of my favorites. Also, Pokemon Snap for Teddy there, and Smash Bros. A little breakout game called Smash Bros. I think it might go places. Also, it's notable to say that they worked on SimCity 64 for the 64 DD in Japan only, and also the canceled version of Mother 3, which was canceled, never happened. From there, I kind of skipped the GameCube. They worked on Melee. Smash Bros becomes a huge thing from this point.
Melee's a nothing game. I wouldn't even cover it.
Yeah, it's whatever. Fuck it. But Melee and Kirby's Air Ride's really all that's notable. They had a couple other canceled Kirby games, but Melee.
Look, they were already building like the weird shit Kirby games, like where it's like a gimmick. They canceled them, but Tilt and Tumble,
Tilt and Tumble 2.
Kirby. Oh, and there's a Kirby for Nintendo GameCube. I guess
That was
would have been
the canceled
cool
3D game. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. So moving from there, I forgot to list GBA, so we'll do that real fast. They worked on Mother 3. That's a game. They also worked on Kirby and Kirby, so that's all we got there. And a couple other canceled games that don't have articles, so I can't tell you about them. I don't know what they are. There's just names. And over on the DS, they worked on Common Sense Training, Japan only. Pokemon Ranger, one of Spencer's all-time favorites. I know that much.
Dun, 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 dun.
Pitcross 3D, which is a game I actually super enjoy that game. And Face Pilot for DSiWare. The classic Face Pilot for DSiWare.
You know, the face, the pilot with the face.
Yeah, the pilot, the Face Pilot. I skipped Wii because they did Kirby, and Kirby. They also did some other channels. It looks like I don't even know. That they don't have articles, so I can't tell you about them. Thank you, Wikipedia. 3DS, obviously a shit ton of Kirby, so we'll skip all that. But they introduced the Box Boy series, which is a series of simple platformers we play as Box Boy, and there's 3 of those on the 3DS. And also, they made Face Raiders, the built-in 3DS software where you take a picture of your face and it flies around the room or whatever. That you look at for like 5 seconds, and you're like, okay, I'm never touching that again. And then on Switch, they did some more Box Boy. Obviously, Kirby's there. And they did a port of their game Part-Time UFO, which Teddy has talked about in the past. If you want to be a UFO.
We can give you a link
Some other notable... What? Huh?
to the past.
Link?
Moving on.
Yeah. No, they didn't make a Zelda. Other notable things. I didn't want to go through the other things, like the other things that they've really developed for. So I want to just list what they've developed for beyond this. They've developed for the Commodore VIC-20, the Commodore 64, the MSX, MSX2, Windows, obviously mobile with UFO game, and they helped with the computer animation for Pokemon 2000.
fuck is that?
The movie?
So there you go. That's some games and stuff that they worked on. It's kind of interesting to me that they seem to have like a deep root in Pokemon, especially near like the late 90s.
I thought you were about to say Near, the series.
It's near.
Near Automata.
I
Yeah.
didn't know this, but I guess maybe you know more about this. I stopped paying attention closely to Smash Bros, but in 2008 it stopped being from HAL Laboratory.
Yeah, it went to I think from Brawl on Sakurai's team. I think their name's just Sora. They worked on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
Aura Game Arts, and then 2014 on its Bandai Namco.
yeah, Bandai Namco, which is still involved with Sakurai, but
So he just like created a different company to handle Smash Bros. 'Cause it
yeah,
got too
he
big?
basically he walked away from HAL and all that and created his own stuff, but he still worked closely with with Nintendo, obviously, for certain games and such.
Gotcha. Why do you think that they basically turn into a Kirby company?
I think it ties into what you were saying about the million sellers. I mean, obviously they focused in on Kirby, they focused in on Pokemon, which is obviously going to sell, especially during the 64 generation. They focused in more on, I guess, what they knew was going to sell and stop making Ghostbusters 2.
Well, don't bash Ghostbusters 2 unless you played it. Okay, for one.
I didn't
Two.
bash it. I'm just saying. I don't know anybody that played it. It could be the greatest game ever.
It is. Two, they worked on these Pokemon games. Those are definitely million sellers. Especially Pokemon Stadium and Snap, 1999. I don't know how that didn't sell like 20 million copies. But like, why do you think they stopped becoming this? Like, it seemed like they were a standby company that did these like spin-offs or whatever of the bigger games. But then they just stopped.
Oh yeah, it just became Kirby. And Box Boy. Don't forget about Box Boy.
Yeah, classic.
I don't not saying anything bad about Box Boy.
Box Boy month coming soon.
Yeah, that's we got it. We have our September already planned for that, so no short change there. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, they stopped being a Kirby or start being anything but Kirby, really. Although Picross 3D, I love Picross.
Yo, Picross 3D is awesome.
Special place in my heart for that stuff.
Apparently, they did a part 2 on 3DS as well, and I didn't know about that. Round 2. I'm guessing it's like a download only or something.
I couldn't get into the 3D Picross. The 2D ones I like, but 3D is a little too advanced for me.
Too Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. Too much of this Game Boy.
And that was my segment on games.
What's your favorite non-Kirby HAL Laboratory game?
Ooh, that's a good question. I am, because I like a lot of more old school stuff. I am partial to. Granted, I haven't beaten Earthbound, so maybe a good change. But I am partial to Balloon Fight or Mock Rider. I like those 2 games from the NES. I think Balloon Fight probably. That game's a classic.
Definitely Earthbound for me.
But also Pokemon Stadium is also amazing.
Any of these games you feel like should get more attention?
Ghostbusters 2.
Definitely. Underrated.
Should get more attention. I don't know. I guess just Pokemon Stadium, Earthbound, Balloon Fight. I think Earthbound gets enough attention though.
I think Pokemon Snap is like it's the game that nobody wanted when it came out. And it's actually like kind of great. but like literally everyone was like, we just want a Pokemon where you play it like the games. And they're like, what about where you take pictures? And everyone's like, fuck that. But it's actually kind of awesome. So I don't know.
Yeah, that game like taught me about photography. Like, and I don't care that much about photography, but I still think it's cool and like it makes it fun. Like the concept of like seeing things in life and like framing and the best shots and centering things. I don't know. It's kind of fun and unique and doing that with the charm of Pokemon characters.
Yeah, Oak's like, you need better lighting, and you're like, I'm 10.
I'm like, teach me more, Professor.
This picture's not very good.
Oh, you can barely see it.
It's probably Stadium. I have a deep love for Pokemon Stadium. It's one of my favorite N64 games, and they still don't do it. I think the closest we've gotten since is like they did like Battle Revolution on Wii, but even then it was no Stadium.
Get thrown back in the arena, boys. HAL Labs.
HAL Labs.
Hey y'all, don't forget to subscribe to them button mappers.